Hi everyone. Today, I've picked out some great stories for you. And so, let's begin. Buyer beware, the couch story reminded me of the time I bought a dryer out of the bargain finder. That was an old newspaper type relic from before internet second-hand seller sites. My dryer was fucked, but not my YouTube channel, buddy. So please subscribe to the channel and I'll continue the story. I was a poor 20-something, and the dryer for sale was cheap, and it works great. Just a few neighborhoods over, my friend and I went to pick it up, but it was in the garage, so number 220 to plug it in to verify that it actually worked. The fucker selling it swore up and down that it worked great, so I bought it. Took that damn thing home and hauled it to the basement and threw the wet clothes from the old dryer in there, and then cracked a beer. End of beer. I checked on the laundry, and while the thing was running, there was no heat. It was basically a hamster wheel for clothes. So I called the guy back and asked him if he knew that the heater part of the dryer didn't work, and he simply replied buyer beware and hung up. Motherfucker. So my buddy and I loaded it back in my truck and drove back to his house. I backed up on his front lawn and we got out and heaved that fucker at the spindles on the front veranda. It broke a couple of them and landed in the flower garden. Fuckface came storming out of his house and started yelling at me that he sold it fair and square. I stood there until he stopped and simply said seller beware. Best part was peeling off his lawn with my RWD truck and fucking up his grass. Didn't get my money back, but I got my money's worth. Never understood why people do this shit. Like the person you are scamming knows where you live. This is some shit I would have done in my 20s. Seller beware. Nice. I once bought a 1975 Cadillac Calais. Wanted it for the drivetrain. Went back to pick it up, got it home. Opened the trunk and it was filled with old computer tube monitors, old tube TVs. Trunk of those cars could hold a family of 7, they were huge. I was pissed I was this guy's garbage man. Loaded up all the junk he had in the trunk, drove an hour back to his house one night, and dropped all the junk off at the end of his driveway. This was before electronics recycling was a thing. Remember an old saying I had about a Ford 500, always said the trunk was a mafia trunk, it could hold 2 bodies and a full-size suitcase. I hope I ruined someone's video. Last night, I was at a Halloween-themed event parade and enjoying myself. We had a front row seat to a very long parade and got there extremely early. I'm very short, so this was important to me to be able to see. The parade starts and it's all fun, then a woman from behind the crowd shoved me and went in front of me, off the sidewalk, and started filming the parade, completely blocking my view. She would scream at the parade people to make them wave at her, and I missed about a quarter of the show because of her. I'm really shy in life and usually not that angry, but the 2-hour-long wait boiled my anger and I started thinking about how I could ruin her video. I started yelling swear words with sexual nature and she didn't notice at first until I yelled lady with blonde hair in front of me just said she likes weird kinks. She turned around and told me seriously. I'm filming here. I replied go to another spot because I won't stop. She started to yell, but the parade security came to told her to go back on the sidewalk. No one was letting her back on the sidewalk where I was. I hope my voice comes through on most of her videos and she can't show them to anyone. I'm a bit proud for standing up for myself for once. I'm also glad there was no kids around me, just teens. I did check before I did it. I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself. Fuck lady with blonde hair that was in front you. I don't stand tall, but I stood strong. Big hugs. Thanks for your comment. Well parade op, well parade. In Dutch, we have a saying better een klein die stiger dan een groot die weigert, better a small one that rears than a big one that fears. It is usually applied in a slightly different context, but in this case, it might be appropriate. I myself are a short Dutchie, 1.695 meters, and I know how it feels when everybody else's elbows are at nose height. Tell you this fun fact. When I was a bouncer I was way more apprehensive going up against a small guy than a big one. Big ones usually get away with just intimidation because of their size. Little one fight like cornered wolverines. We recently were visiting a tourist area and these folks were filming while going on loud, long rants. My family started walking by and cussing, so they couldn't use their footage too. Seems fair to me. I totally understand your frustration. I too am a short stature of a woman. I've been known to pick a spot at Disney parks really early for parades and such. The same thing has happened to me before, several times. I'm not a very nice person when it happens. I'll explain nicely that I picked my spot several hours ahead of time so I can actually see and ask them to find another spot just once. I'm always on the curb, so technically there is no place to get in front of me except for in the street, which isn't allowed. Let's just say, after asking nicely once, they regret it if they don't move. I admit, I can be a bitchy Karen when it's needed. Especially at Disney where you pay for it and someone does that. Good thing I didn't have to pay for the parade. They didn't stay long, I wasn't the only one asking them to leave. Park employees flat out told them to get lost when they noticed me asking them to move. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. Yes, the short gang must unite. If you can't be a bitchy Karen when you need to be to stick up for yourself, you just don't have a spine tbh. Sometimes we all need a little Karen energy. Sometimes. Ironically, you gotta be a Karen to deal with Karens. Well done for calling out this Karen and standing up for yourself and hopefully ruining her video. That is perfect. I have heard about holding a porn video playing close to your face so that people filming you in public can't show it on most social media. This is an awesome idea. I guess she could post them on mute, but then the dancers and the marching band would just look silly. Nobody will ever watch the video anyway. Exactly my thoughts. Not of their own volition, anyway. She was probably planning to force her family or coworkers to watch it on her phone, regardless of whether they're actually interested. Marilyn Manson has been seen traveling through airport security with the word fuck written in large letters across his face. He'll apparently apologize to people around him and explain it so paparazzi can't publish any images they capture of him. I thought it was pretty clever, even though he is a slime bag for other reasons. Marilyn Manson is a slime bag. This completely shatters every notion I have of him. Tesco Manager mistook me for an employee. I shared this in another page, and a couple people recommended I shared my experience here too. About 14 years ago when Reliance Security provided security for Tesco stores, I also worked for Reliance but was based at the airport. One morning after a 12-hour night shift, I decided to go into a Tesco store I pass on the way home and get a sandwich. I had my work uniform on, but I was wearing a gray jacket on top so people would know I'm not on duty. So, I go into the store and pick up a basket and headed to the sandwich counter, and I'm browsing the selection, and I hear someone say excuse me, but not expecting anyone to be talking to me, I carry on looking for my desired sandwich. Then suddenly the basket is slapped out of my hand, and there is this snarling man's face less than an inch from mine, and he says, "I'm not paying you to shop, get to the front of the store right now." So I'm tired and very confused, and can only muster the reply what he said, "I told you get to front doors. We've been open for customers for the last 30 minutes, and you've not been at your position once and now I find you buying snacks." That's when the penny dropped, and I simply replied, "I know the store's open to customers. I am one. I work for the same company who provides security, but I am not your guard." But those words ringing in his ears, all the color in his face drained away when he realized what he had just done to a customer. Suddenly he became completely apologetic and said if there was anything he could do for me, he would gladly help. I informed him I would like help carrying my basket around the store as I was tired from a long night shift, and he replied he would get someone to help me immediately, and I then told him I did not want someone else to carry my basket, I wanted him to carry it. So, I originally only intended on buying a sandwich, but to teach this guy a lesson I spent 30 minutes in the store and went in every aisle. Tesco managers when you're the security. My first shift at Tesco Saffron Walden, I was told to stand at the front. They refused to give me a site layout or the chance to go and make notes on where fire doors, alarm panels etc. were, refused to give me a staff radio, and wouldn't tell me where the loos were. Then criticized when after 4 hours I went to the loo and popped in the canteen to get a cuppa. I think I lasted 5 weeks there. Don't blame you buddy, retail security is the worst. Thankfully, I've not done many retail security sites. I made the mistake of going plankloves in a shopping precinct in Liverpool. Note to everyone, don't do a stop on Scouse lads shoplifting in front of their GFS, they get very aggressive and the Scouse chicks get bitey. Lol, I've been out of retail for about 17 years, couldn't pay enough to go back now. Scousers do it their way. I got bit twice by Scouse women. Classy. I always thought it was the easiest job in the world until 16-year-old me was ordered to stand at the door as additional security because of the Christmas shopping. Time went so slow. I thought the day would never end, and I could feel every freaking muscle in my body screaming to make any sort of movement. I had a contract security job watching empty construction sites at night, and I got to where I was reading an entire paperback novel every single night. It actually wasn't too bad. Except for the pay and the fact that half my check went to half-price books. Library or ebooks weren't an option. Rough. Not for me in 1998. Used to do executive protection, and when people were in conferences and there was no one else on the floor, we'd play the alphabet game. My radio would crackle and I'd hear aardvark, over. Then ant, over. Anteater, over. Aphid, over. Anonym, over. Until someone won the as and we'd move on to bees. I also learned how to multiply most 2-digit numbers by 11 in my head. Standing on a door can be mind-numbing. Did you multiply by 10, then add the number you just multiplied. Cause that makes it pretty easy. Oh, this video has come to an end. If you want more such cool stories, then go to one of the many following videos.